Back with us this morning on the Gallo Show, Joe Max Higgins, CEO of the Golden Triangle Development Link. Good morning, Joe Max. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. How are you today?
Doing well. Really appreciate a few minutes of your time. I'd love for us this morning to do a little looking back and also a little looking ahead. You've been running Link for a long time, the Golden Triangle Development Link. When you kind of do a year-end assessment, you look back at 2024, what are you most proud of, and what would you like to maybe improve on a little bit?
Well, I mean, 2024 was a phenomenal year for us. Some of it started in 2023, and some of it won't be finished until 2025. But probably the key things are the steel dynamic projects, the biochar project and the aluminum project that's, scheduled. Both those are scheduled to go operational middle of next year, plus or minus. But in addition to that, I mean, we had Terberg Taylor, which is a truck plant. They manufacture trucks, part of the Taylor family in Louisville and a Dutch family. I think combined they've got over 200 years of family-owned experience. Pretty cool. Wow. Quality Beverage, a family that had been in Columbus making things for. I heard you talking the other day about the slushies. Well, they make the syrup that goes into slushies, but they make soft drink beverage syrups. Burford Electric, all did expansions in addition to those big projects. So PACCAR started a $211 million project that'll finish next year. So been a very, very good year. The solar farms, two of the solar farms went hot, and another one started. So and we've got two more waiting in the wings on that. So all in all, I would say if not our best year, probably one of our top years in the last 21 that I've been here.
Certainly impressive when you look at the scope and just the number of the projects. I feel like we've talked about the big projects a lot, right? The mega sites and the projects that are in the hundreds of millions of dollars or even the billions of dollars in terms of, what it costs to get them off the ground and, the economic impact. What is there a focus at all within GTR Link on smaller projects that are also bringing jobs and are helping with the local economy?
Yeah, and probably to be honest with you, we could have done better over the last several years at doing that. But we commissioned a study from Bill Fruth. He's an economic development consultant, and he made recommendations. And one of the things that, believe it or not, we did not have was a full-time person working established existing businesses and expansions. And this year, middle of the year, we moved Betsy Young into that role, and she is actually calling on those middle and smaller companies. I mean, she worked on the Burford Electric deal that's probably less than two handfuls of jobs. She's working on a deal at West Point right now, and making calls on those folks to make sure they know what programs are out there, what incentives are out there from us and or the state. So I think in the coming years, we're going to spend a lot more time and effort helping those small to medium guys.
Do deals like that move faster? I mean, can you be a little more nimble? Whereas, okay, maybe you're not doing a project that's going to employ 100+ people, but it's going to employ 10 or 15 people. But also in terms of resources that you have to invest, doesn't nearly cost as much, doesn't take nearly as much time? Well,
and I'll butcher the quote, but T. Boone Pickens said a big deal, a little deal takes just about as much time as a big deal, and I agree with that.
That's fair.
No, and he also said, don't rush the monkey, and you'll see a better show. But the bottom line is, I think you do it because it's the right thing. But I can tell you on some of those smaller projects, there's been just as much hand-holding, just as much storytelling, just as much stuff. And again, I think we need to do it because it's the right thing. But never forget that in the last several years, this state has moved phenomenally forward. And I'm not pandering when I say it, but I've worked for 3 governors since I've been in Mississippi, and Governor Reeves and his administration they're just chalking up big wins that are monumental for the state. And again, when you take a state that is rural, let's just say it rural and poor, and not very many people here, and land these bigger projects, you fundamentally change the state. I don't think you can fundamentally change the state with nickels and dimes. You're going to have to change the state with $100 bills and getting big, thousands of jobs, thousands of high-paying jobs change a place. 25 jobs helps a place, and it's important to a place, and you should do it. But at the end of the year, you're going to look back and can you feel yourself seeing a change? And we're still going to be going after the big boys.
Yeah. That's a really interesting philosophy. We were visiting with someone yesterday, and they said that the numbers are out there that in his 5 years in office as governor, Tate Reeves has more economic development in terms of dollars invested or total number of projects than any of his predecessors. And that's interesting to me because Haley Barbour was pro-economic development, and Phil Bryant was pro-economic development, but it feels like Governor Reeves has absolutely taken this to another level. I know he's got his detractors out there, but it's hard to be a detractor when it comes to these projects.
Well, I referenced Bill Fruth earlier. He does and has for a quarter of a century done strengths of economies, micros and metros. He 26, 30 variables. He plugs in a damn machine and it kicks it out, and it ranks the number one metropolitans and micropolitans down to the worst place in the country. And I religiously monitor those. And and we've got a chart that says green did better than last year, yellow did the same, and red did worse. And we started tracking these when Governor Barbour came in. And the cheat on the deal is look at the greens. How many greens did Governor Barbour have? How many greens did Governor Bryant have? And how many greens did Tate Reeves have? And in Haley's early days, that first term, there was some progress, but not tremendously a lot. His last term was full of greens. And I'm talking about for all the micropolitans in the state, not just where I work. I'm talking about all of them. And then when Governor Bryant came in, he was on. My consultant said he was on Haley Barbour. He was on Haley Barbour's stuff. So that first 4 years for Phil was good, but the last 4 weren't as good as the first 4. And so, in my opinion, Tate got 4 years that weren't as good that he inherited. And he has just, it's just, again, I hate to sound like a commercial, but when a guy's winning, you got to give him credit. He's winning.
Yeah. So tell me this, Joe Max. Visiting with Joe Max Higgins, he's CEO of the Golden Triangle Development Link. What does that look like in the governor's office? Because it's easy to say, hey, we want to focus on economic development. We want to bring good jobs. We want to, revolutionize industry in the state of Mississippi. What does that mean? What does a governor have to do to allow his state and the people that work there to pull these things off?
Well, and some of it's very simple: being responsive. What if I told you this morning, on my way to my office to do this interview, I have already talked to State Director Bill Court for 30 minutes about a project, and he's going to get me an answer today. Okay, I can tell you that in past administrations that wasn't always the case, and it could even be days or weeks before you get a return call. We know now
not an answer, but a return call.
A return call, and subsequently, we average, Richard. In the 21 years I've been here, we average about $500 million and about 500 jobs. In $500 million in CapEx and 500 jobs per year for 25 years. Now, this is not a one-hit wonder. Hey, he had a good year. 21 years, we average $500 million and 500 jobs, and those are high-paying jobs. In the last term of the Bryant administration, our job count and our investment count was down 40% a year during those 4 years. And all of a sudden, snap your fingers, and we're back to where we used to be, and have actually exceeded it. So it's hard, but it's not as hard as people think it is if you just make it a priority and understand.
I know, Joe Max, I'm not as entertaining as Bill Court, but will you hang on the line with me for a few more minutes?
Sure.
Let's talk about what's coming up in 2025. I'm fast. I know you're not going to tell us all the contents of that call this morning, but my guess is that's not the only one of those calls that you are involved with. What does this look like as we move into 2025 and beyond? More with Joe Max Higgins, CEO of Golden Triangle Development. Link when we come back on the Gallo Radio Show on SuperTalk, Mississippi. Visiting with Joe Max Higgins, CEO of Golden Triangle Development Link. Joe Max, you've explained to me that the reason that this has worked, well, that there are a lot of reasons that Link has worked so well in the Golden Triangle. And it starts with a willingness by the counties that are in your footprint to invest, to take a little bit of a risk. You've had business people that are leaders in those counties, and they've said, let's do it. And then you've got some of the resources available, right? Land is available to do this, and you're situated there. I've thought a lot about our conversations, and we got big projects going in Madison County, big project going in Madison County. There are big projects that are going on the coast. Is there anything that is precluding other parts of the state of Mississippi from, forgive the way I describe this, getting in the game?
Richard, before COVID, I was traveling a lot around the country, and I'm starting to get more invitations to start doing that. And everybody, and probably on a routine basis, once or twice a month, we'll host a community to come in here, bring a team to see how we do what we do. And, I will tell you that most every community that comes that I go speak to listens to how we do it, and then they go back to doing it the same exact way they did it before. What you got to realize is this is a very competitive business, and it costs money. And I will tell you, when I got to Mississippi and we put that first mega site together, we were talking about Lowndes County issuing $12.5 million in bonds. And Buddy Mitchum and Demery Grubbs came with governmental consultants, and they said, we've never done a bond issue that big for any county in the state of Mississippi.
Really?
Yeah. And I said, why not? Well, we never have. They're usually $1 million, $2 million, $3 million. And, it's like anything else. The bigger you play, the bigger you win. And so, today, the Cinco mega site is going to cost exponentially more than that first mega site did. But the infrastructure and all that stuff's out there, and it just makes sense. But there are a lot of people that want to play. Just like Nick Saban will tell you, there's a lot of people want to win a national championship. They're just not willing to sweat their ass off out there in August and about die of heat stroke. And I told my daughter when she grew up, she's 30 years old. I said, you grew up at a perfect time. You grew up at a perfect time. Most people your generation won't sacrifice to succeed, and it's not going to be as hard for you to succeed in your generation as it was me and mine, because most people just won't do it. They'll talk about it. It's expensive, okay? And at Madison, probably 5, 6, 7 years ago at the Madison Business League, I gave a speech. And I said, you got to regionalize. I never was a fan of regionalism until I saw what it brought you. It brings you more money to do the stuff, and it gives you more options and sites and places for people to live and all that.
So when you say regionalize, you're talking multi-county?
Yeah. I will tell you that I will stand on the Bible and tell you that I think we're the only truly regional organization in the state. Now, you can talk about the Pool Alliance at Tupelo. That was those 3 counties getting together for a one-hit wonder. That is the Toyota plant. But on a day-to-day basis, and there are some counties like Hattiesburg that the city stretches over 2 counties, and by default you get that. But I'm talking about annually, my 3 counties contribute money, put people on the board. We're governed by people from Starkville, West Point, and Columbus, and Tippah, Lowndes, and Clay. And they're not the only ones that put the money in, but each one of those communities put in $500,000 a year to help fund about a $3 million budget.
Joe Max, looking to 2025, what's on the radar?
Well, obviously the biggest thing that we'll talk about openly is the Cinco mega site. We close on that in March. Richard, you have to put it in perspective. We've done 4 of these mega sites, and we've got tenants on every one of them. And so, Tupelo, Chattanooga, Huntsville, other places up in Tennessee all have 1 mega site. We have 4 and are fixing to have our 5th. Those 4 mega sites have already generated to us over $7 billion in direct capital investment and over 6,000 high-paying jobs. I'm talking about if you run the average of all those jobs is over $100,000 a year. So Cinco mega site that's going to be right across Highway 82 from PACCAR, right at the airport road exit. Our TVA reps, our MDA reps, we've had numerous site consultants in already. They said, Joe Max, this is your best work to date. This is your best site to date. And I already told you we got Yokohama Steel Dynamics, Aluminum Dynamics, and PACCAR on the other ones.
Sure.
So it's our best work to date. That's the biggest thing. We've already shown that site, and we've got somebody coming in, believe it or not, between now and the end of the year to look at the whole thing, lock, stock, and barrel.
Does that mean you're already looking toward number 6?
Yesterday, but Richard, this is how you got to think. Yesterday I was on the phone for an hour with my primary civil engineer, and we were looking at sites for what happens if. Because if you don't do that, the lag time between deals. When we did our first mega site, 30 days after we stuck a shovel in the ground on the steel mill, we put our second mega site under option. Less than a year later, PACCAR came. Well, look at it this way: the aluminum mill picked us, and that mega site was gone. Well, if you go back and look at the time and date stamps, it wasn't that long after that we had Cinco under option, started working Cinco.
Joe Max, we're out of time. Thanks always for your time. This is the Gallo Radio Show.